Coming up next, the latest from Paul Delgado on Hurricane Ian, what the forecast track is telling us right now. Also, how some facilities are evacuating medical patients in Pinellas County. And as the shelters open up, you're going to meet one family that's not taking any chances. Fox 13 has special coverage of Hurricane Ian coming up next.
You're watching Fox 13, and the 10 o'clock news starts now.
Thousands of people across Tampa Bay are now under mandatory evacuations as Hurricane Ian sets its sights on Florida's west coast.
We are really begging you to evacuate once you have the order.
It's time to prepare for the storm's impacts. Sandbags, hurricane kits, and gas.
Wood for the windows and sliding glass doors, and sandbags for the doors, and water for me.
To make sure you're ready and safe across Tampa Bay.
It's our goal not to lose one life during a storm like this, but we need your help. We need you to do your part. Protect you and protect your loved ones.
Good evening tonight. I'm Allie Corey.
And I'm Mark Wilson. Glad to have you with us. The message here is loud and clear. Get ready, be prepared. And Tampa International Airport is doing just that. They're suspending operations already starting tomorrow at 5. So now at 10 o'clock, it is Hurricane Ian continuing to strengthen. And the potential storm surge here has forced many counties to start evacuating people already who live on the coast. Mandatory evacuations already underway in almost all of Tampa Bay's coastal counties. In Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Sarasota, Manatee, and Hernando County. Everyone in those counties in an evacuation zone A needs to get out. Tomorrow, it'll be zones B and C in Pinellas County that will be first to call to leave. And the county will also restrict access to barrier islands, the beaches, tomorrow morning. Only those who live there will be allowed in and out. Our Fox 13 crews are working hard for you tonight to bring you the very latest information so you can stay safe and stay informed. But we're going to start with our chief meteorologist, Paul Delgado. And Paul, it's that storm surge we've been talking about that has concerned most of us.
It really is. I mean, a couple things. It's always water. It's storm surge. And at this point, fresh water flooding. We're going to get so much rain in some places, maybe between 1 and 2 feet of additional rain on top of what already has been a very wet September. We've been watching kind of the structure and reports coming in from the Hurricane Hunter planes, from Ian, and there's absolutely no doubt that Ian continues to intensify rapidly. The structure is improving. You can see on the last couple of frames, it's a perfect circle. We call this the central dense overcast. All of this dark brown and red is all very cold cloud tops, and that equates into big thunderstorms. You can even kind of make out an eye near the Isle of Youth. In fact, we can use land-based radars from Key West and look all the way across Cuba and find the eye right here. And you know what? Between now and probably landfall, between Key West radar and our SkyTower radar, we'll be able to kind of watch the eye and kind of compare it to the official track from the Hurricane Center and see if that track is deviating at all. That's what we did with Charlie, and we'll do the same thing with Ian. Just kind of watch it and almost telestrate it as it moves off our west coast, and we'll kind of get a sense if that track is deviating at all from the official track from the Hurricane Center. Oh, we'll go back on this. They're getting absolutely nailed tonight. Some of the outer bands through South Florida, all kinds of flooding, rainfall rates, 2, 3, 4 inches per hour. They're getting absolutely hammered tonight down by Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Category 2 moving north-northwest at 13. The track reasoning has not really changed much. I need to make some important points, though. Even though we have this line going just like this, just judging by the data coming in tonight as far as the model suites, there's still some disagreement with even the European model now hinting at a track that could move inland south of Tampa Bay. That is not an official forecast. We will show you the updated forecast at 11 o'clock from the Hurricane Center. But my point is that this track is certainly subject to at least some minor changes. And that really is critical, because if the track, for example, was to head south, it kind of changes the probability of storm surge flooding in Tampa Bay, but it brings it somewhere else down by Sarasota County and points south in the rainfall distribution. So that minor track adjustments makes a major deal when it comes to impacts. And the computer models, mainly over Tampa Bay, but still at our latitude, there's some pretty good spread. So even though the consensus forecast is pretty much up Tampa Bay or west of of us. Those minor variations will make a big difference. We'll be watching for that as we track it on radar, the center, the next couple of days. But a lot more coming up at 10:20 on Ian, and I'll see you then.
We are glued to your updates, Paul. And you know, those conditions that Paul just described are why mandatory evacuations are in effect across the Bay Area. And people are listening. Look at this. Traffic bumper to bumper along I-4 in Polk County right now. There are several evacuation shelters that are now open, and emergency leaders say they will be crowded. Our Fox 13's Janae Lewis is live outside of a shelter in Tampa with what you should expect if you need to go there. Janae.
Alley County leaders say this is not a decision that they took lightly, but they wanted to ensure everyone here had a safe place to go during this storm, and they're cautioning you that you should plan to be at a shelter for several days.
Yeah, some really good information there. Janae, thanks.
Let's head over to Pinellas County right now. It is a mandatory Zone A evacuation. Everybody there has got to get out. The county is expected to close down the barrier islands to only residents first thing in the morning. Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri explained to us why it's important to follow these evacuation orders.
When we issue that mandatory evacuation, what that means is that if you don't and you call for help, we're not coming because we're not going to put our people in harm's way and put them in peril because you didn't listen to what we told you to do.
Yeah, and think about this. What about Florida hospitals? Well, HCA Florida Hospital in Pasadena is in an evacuation zone or near it. Crews spent the day today evacuating hospital patients to safer locations there. Some of their nurses are traveling with them because of their conditions. And Fox 13's Brianna Ardondo is following this for us tonight. Joined us now live in Pasadena. Hi there, Brianna. You got just incredible stress they're going through, but it seems like they've got this down. I know HCA Florida actually airlifted some patients as well today, right?
Yeah, that's right, Mark. So that helicopter, they had about 5 medical helicopters that were landing just to the left of me here at this hospital to take patients outside of the county. Now, this hospital is closing, and so nurses are getting themselves and their patients ready.
And there are some other hospitals as well that are starting to evacuate patients. The Morton Plant North Bay in Newport Richey, they're evacuating patients to other Bay Care facilities. It'll also close tomorrow. And the hospital system tells us at this time all other hospital locations that they have will remain open.
Oh, they are really taking it seriously in western Pasco County, particularly in Newport Richey, because they've seen bad flooding from tropical systems that were much smaller than Ian is expected to be. Fox 13's Chris Cato joins us in our newsroom with a look at how Pasco and other counties are preparing for Ian. Chris.
Well, Allie, you know it doesn't take a storm hitting our immediate coastline to cause tremendous flooding problems for low-lying areas. I'll take you back to September 2016 when Category 1 Hurricane Hermine passed some 200 miles to our west before bending east and making landfall in the Big Bend area. And again, you can find all of this information, including school closures and shelter locations and much more for each of the 11 counties in our viewing area on fox13news.com on the main page. Easy to find. Just look for county by county emergency information. Allie?
I've been using it quite a bit, and it is really helpful. All right, Chris, thanks. Well, you know, the theme of the day was really to get prepared.
Yeah, here we go. For some, that's easier said than done, though.
Everything's empty. Like, anything that you're supposed to have during a hurricane isn't there. No peanut butter, no water.
Yeah, mad dash to the grocery store today leaves some shoppers empty-handed, sadly, as workers try to get the shelves restocked.
Well, today grocery stores were a hot spot. Check out lines wrapped around the aisles as people stocked up on last-minute essentials. So what's still left? Well, we sent Fox 13's Jordan Bowen to find out. He's live for us at the Publix there on Southdale Mabry. So, Jordan, we are seeing a lot of empty shelves there.
Yeah, Ellie, it's kind of what you would expect to see during this time. Some of the shelves inside this store were completely wiped out earlier this afternoon. Reporting in Tampa, Jordan Bowen, Fox 13 News.
And now, Fox 13 Chief Meteorologist Paul Delgado with your Sky Tower radar forecast.
Yeah, all quiet now, but one thing we did not need today in advance of Ian was rain. And what do we have? We had so much rain in eastern Hillsborough County and around Tampa, and we don't need to see that in advance of a big rain event with Ian, but it was there, and probably more coming up tomorrow afternoon. 77 on the downtown Tampa cam. Here's a look at the latest satellite view, and we're kind of seeing now what looks like the presentation of an eye developing near the Isle of Youth. The hurricane will make that trip across kind of a narrow strip of Cuba and then get into the Gulf of Mexico tomorrow, where intensification will continue, and it will continue until it gets almost just south of our latitude. And a lot of you saw the maps with the numbers decreasing from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and that's all because of some predicted shear and some dry air at about our latitude in a couple of days, which could cause a storm to weaken a bit. There's still areas of light rain around Tampa Bay. There's even more steady rain. This is definitely connected to Ian on the northeast side. We'll see more bands of rain move to the southeast, or from southeast to northwest, as the evening moves along. But we're going to kind of zoom in on Sky Tower, and we will show you the center of the storm, which is way down here. This is the eye. It's being picked up by all of our land-based radars from Miami to Key West. And this is going to be critical because the next couple of days, we're going to use our land-based radar and mainly Sky Tower to track the eye, the center, and we'll compare that on the projected track of Ian, and we'll look for any sort of deviation. That's exactly what we did with Charlie. We saw that right-hand turn. Same thing we did with Irma, and that'll play a big role in kind of determining where the center eventually makes landfall. It gets close to our west coast in a couple of days. So again, Cat 2, top winds 100. The intensification process is certainly not done yet. This is a track, and you go back a couple of days, there really hasn't been a lot of deviation, and kudos to the Hurricane Center, because the model's been kind of flip-flopping back and forth, but Hurricane Center kind of stays with consensus forecasts, and over time, consensus forecast usually kind of wins out. And here's what I'm sorry. Here's the 4, the 3, the 1, and a lot of you paying attention at home have messaged me saying, well, what's going on here? And it's really because of what the atmosphere is going to be like on Wednesday and Thursday. Upper level winds will pick up from the southwest. There'll be some dry air, so for that reason, there could be some weakening. That being said, it's still a Cat 4 here, Cat 3, and we're talking major impacts. So this is not that big a deal. It's just showing a weakening storm, but as storms weaken, the wind field usually expands as well. And the cone is still in play, and you're just spending hours tonight analyzing model data. We can say that any deviation to the west or to the east of this track is not going to be a surprise at all. We saw the European model tonight slice across the state south of us, and that's a big deal. I mean, everyone's going to have impacts, but we talk about the fine details, and that's what you want to know at home. How are these little turns going to affect me? And if something was to go south of Tampa Bay, that kind of reduces the storm surge risk in Tampa Bay. That makes it worse. Maybe Sarasota Bay South. Those are the things, and maybe north of us. It's really about those small little changes that'll make a big difference in your local weather. And here's that storm surge graphic, and that assumes that the hurricane is up here on Thursday and Friday, giving us a southwest wind and pushing all of the water up the bay. And of course, any setup like this with a big, strong hurricane here and strong, 80, 90 mile an hour winds is going to cause historic flooding or catastrophic flooding in some spots. That water is pushed out the bay and it gets stuck, up around Davis Island, up around Oldsmar. So that is the situation with a hurricane here. But here, it's all different depending on the exact location of the center. Here's the setup, and this is why the forecast is complicated. You have the high pressure east. Hurricanes kind of move around the periphery of ridges, and then Wednesday and Thursday, this trough is going to depart, and then the steering currents kind of collapse. And the models are trying to figure out, okay, with the weakening steering currents, where do we go? I mean, do we stay in the same spot? Do we kind of go around the ridge? Do we drift a little bit northwest? That's why the models are struggling, is getting a handle on the trough leaving and the steering currents essentially collapsing, and the model's trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen now? That'll eventually be resolved, but it may take another day or so. So European models, this is all the ensembles, and kind of hinting of maybe a right-hand turn over us. Then the GFS model has some spread west of us. So as you can tell, the general theme, the forecast, the big pattern still makes sense. Hurricane with major impacts for everybody, but the details still to be determined. And I tell you, rainfall potential, not only storm surge, but rainfall could be over 10 to 20 inches in spot, and that's on top of a very wet September. So freshwater flooding is a distinct possibility as well, and the probability of hurricane force winds obviously highest along our west coast. So tonight, more bands of rain, passing showers mainly south, 75, kind of variably cloudy, fast-moving showers, storms tomorrow. High temperature about 87, and then coming up on your Wednesday will be increasing rain and wind. So that's the day where the weather really deteriorates, late Wednesday into Thursday, with high temperatures in the mid-80s. Depending on the exact track of Ian, there'll be some improving weather later in the weekend. I tell you what, when I look ahead to the weekend, I actually see some lower humidity on the backside of Ian, but it's a big price to pay for low humidity. It's a hurricane in the middle. Temperatures over the weekend in the 80s, and we're back in a few minutes.
Fox 13 is your go-to place as you prepare for Hurricane Ian.
And when you wake up on Tuesday, Good Day will be here with Dave Osterberg's Sky Tower forecast on the storm's track.
Plus, up-to-the-minute news on evacuation zones, traffic, shelters, and other official advisories.
Depend on Fox 13 and Good Day, and we'll help you stay prepared and informed.
Well, we are waiting for that 11 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center on Hurricane Ian, but evacuations are already underway here in parts of Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so what can we all expect? Fox 13 meteorologist Tyler Eliason here with us as well tonight now with the very latest. Hi there, Tyler. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you know, at this point, Mark, it's a question of, okay, we have a forecast. You know, we can kind of pinpoint where we're going to have storm surge issues, but you got to urge our viewers that can change just by a track shift east-west 10, 20 miles, especially with respect to storm surge, because as you know, it's kind of that eastern and southern side where the wind is all onshore that we have the biggest storm surge issues. So it's not going to take much to kind of shift that area of highest impacts. We just got to take it hour by hour, watch subtle changes in the track, and fine-tune that forecast. That will happen certainly over the next 24 hours. You'll start to see those numbers kind of shift just a little bit. Latest satellite imagery here, you definitely start to see a little bit of an eye popping out just west of the Isle of Youth, just south of the western tip of Cuba. It'll move over Cuba tonight. Not going to do much to weaken it. There's just a little strip of land there in the way and more warm water once it reaches the southeastern Gulf. This is the 8 o'clock advisory. Winds were at 100. Pressure was 965. Hurricane hunters, though, have been in and out of this over the last hour or two, finding pressures down to like 959, 960. So what we'll see in the 11 o'clock advisory is that pressure drops a little bit more. The wind speed may go up a little bit more as well. And we'll just, again, continue to see this ramp up as it's got really nothing working against it until it gets to about our latitude, and then maybe some shear starts to play a role in weakening it. That's kind of why right now you see that weakening trend on approach to our west coast. But of course, this is a short window for a lot of weakening in the forecast. A lot's going to be determined, again, by that shear. We'll see how it plays out. But again, here versus here versus here, totally different scenarios over like a 50, 60 mile wide range. Again, that is going to play a big role. You look at just the storm surge map right now, that's assuming the circulation is here. All of a sudden, you move that circulation right over Tampa Bay, and all the surge is down south, down towards Bradenton and Sarasota. The core of the strongest winds is much further inland as well. So it's those little tweaks we'll make as we start to get into tomorrow and tomorrow night. We can just kind of track it on Sky Tower, do a little bit more of that nowcasting, and the answers become very, very clear. Guys?
All right, Tyler, thanks. Well, you know, families here in Tampa Bay are getting ready for whatever Hurricane Ian brings. But, you know, the impacts can be felt far away from the center of the storm, as you just heard Tyler describe there. Florida's Panhandle is starting to prepare. Fox's Caroline Elliott is live for us in Lynn Haven tonight, which is where Hurricane Michael caused some major damage back in 2018. So, Caroline, I can imagine they're not taking any chances there.
Absolutely. We're seeing a lot of nervous homeowners as Hurricane Ian prepares to make landfall later this week. Again, from Florida's Panhandle down to Fort Myers, we're seeing homeowners across the state prepare for what could become a Category 4 hurricane later this week.
Paul will be keeping an eye on Hurricane Ian, and when we're not here on the air, you can always check out myfoxhurricane.com for the very latest. We'll be right back.
For your chance to win $1 million of Terry's money, download the free Fox Bet Super 6 app now and play the NFL Sunday Challenge.
In just about 20 minutes, NASA will start moving the Artemis 1 rocket from the launch pad all the way to the vehicle assembly building. It'll take 10 hours. Hurricane Ian left NASA with no choice. Artemis was supposed to have a third launch attempt next week. This rollback now means the launch will be delayed for at least several weeks, and moving it back and forth can cause other problems.
But every time you roll a rocket like this, a 32-story tall, 5.5 million pound rocket, it puts a load on it, right? It takes a little bit out of it.
NASA says it looks like they won't make their October 1st window for a launch, so the next opportunity will be November 12th to the 27th. We're going to be right back with the very latest on Hurricane Ian from Paul.